Today, we are going to be discussing Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And there's only one way that we can actually start off this podcast episode. Like, there's only one way to do the introduction. Do you know what I'm going to do?
You're going to say, Brent's going to start with the introduction.
No. It's
What?
this. You ready? 5, 4,
Oh, yeah.
3, 2, 1. Let's get it.
Well, you gotta tell the listeners why we said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 at the end of last episode.
Yes, that. So you did it in the last episode, and I was like, wait a second, because I'd listened to the audiobook on Audible, I don't know, 4 months ago, and I'd forgotten that part because that was right in the beginning, and I hadn't read it yet, and you were like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I was like, what are you talking about?
I thought you would get the joke, and that's why I was like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Why don't you tell the listeners what 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is?
That's why I asked you because I forgot.
No. At least you're
Wasn't
honest.
it like she didn't want to get out of bed, so she would like count to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then she would get on with her life, or something that she did not want to do. She would count from 5 down to 1, and then that would be her response mechanism to doing something difficult or doing something that she didn't want to do.
Yeah, and I think that sums up Mel Robbins. Like, that concept sums up Mel Robbins. She is so simple, yet profoundly deep on some topics, yet at the same time, so simple. So simple to the point that it's like, does that really work? Like,
what's an example?
I want to go
what
do something.
What do you mean by simple? What is an example you mean by that?
So I need to mow the grass today.
Okay.
I don't have to. I mowed it already, but I just don't want to mow the grass. I want to sit here, and right now I'm watching Falling Skies, which is a sci-fi series from the mid 2010s. Catching up on it. I didn't get to finish the series, so I'm watching it. I'm like, oh man, I want to watch the next episode, but man, I really, really, really want to mow the grass. I really have to mow the grass. You know what? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow! All this power!
I'm mow the grass right now.
I'm gonna mow the grass now. Where did that come from?
Power. That's the power you have, Brian. That's the power that Mel Robbins can give you.
But look, so we're kind of making fun of it because it's like, are you serious? Like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that. But for some people, it works. For some people, they're like, I need something to get me off my butt, to give me the motivation to do what I need to do. So therefore, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it after I reach 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this!
Well, if that was me, I'd be like, well, let's count again. Recount.
Or I would mess up the count. I'd be like, 5, 4, 2, 3. Wait, oh, crap. Wait. 5, 1, 3.
What movie is that off of? That's off of a movie. Is it Rocket Man? Oh, man,
I have no idea.
Well, I think, like you said, she says some of the most simplest things, but she takes, my critique for this book is it's 300 pages long. I didn't start connecting with what she was saying until page 151 when she started talking about adult relationships. But she takes so many words to explain one sentence, and then she repeats herself 3 or 4 times that one sentence. Like, you have the power you have. Power is for you.
Yours.
Like she just repeats and regurgitates it. So it's a very simple book. But the message of Let Them and the Let Them theory is profound. And I think it can help a lot of people. I know it's going to help me moving forward. And I wish I had this idea of Let Them in my 20s and early 30s, because some of the relationship problems that I had was because I wanted to control everybody in my life. And instead of getting upset and making people enemies that I didn't agree with, that they did something, all I would have to say is let them, and then let me. And so it's deeply profound, but very simple. So maybe that's the genius in her as an author.
I think that a lot of people need that simplicity. I mentioned yesterday that I think that the Let Them theory is a great book for people who don't read nonfiction books. So if you're already reading books by Ryan Holiday, for example, or other really deep works by Cal Newport or Jim Collins, or, we went through a bunch of books yesterday. If you're already reading nonfiction books, then this book almost seems too simple, like too surfacey. But if you're not normally a reader of nonfiction or self-help books, and also, secondly, I think if you have a specific situation that you can apply this into your life in a specific way, then I think it can really be helpful. You mentioned how whenever you first read The Obstacle's the Way, you were experiencing a very specific obstacle, and reading that book at the time helped you in an extremely deep and profound way. But when you went back through it the second time, you didn't have anything specific that you were thinking about. So therefore it was good, but it wasn't as good as Ego is the Enemy. I think that Mel Robbins hits so many different topics. She talks about relationships. She talks about businesses. She talks about families. She talks about addiction. I mean, she just literally, she's taking the machine gun and she's like, "Bah, bah, 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 bah." Okay,
Spray,
I think
hit
I hit
something.
everything.
Right.
Yeah, I think this theory applies to all of this. Use it how you want, which is good in some ways because that means she's reaching a maximum audience.
Right.
And there's some people, if she only focused on relationships, like maybe a lot of people aren't experiencing issues with their relationships right now. If she only focused on jobs and work, or if she only focused on it from the business angle, then she's only going to hit that group of people who are like, "Oh yeah, I'm struggling with my business right now. I should just let my supplier," whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
Take it from that perspective. But instead, she takes this very simple concept and tries to apply it to as many people as possible. And as we said, there are some very profound thoughts and ideas, but it is presented in a very simplistic manner. But first, before I didn't know what that was at first. I saw this round brown thing that was appearing up in the camera. You have to talk about your cigar.
Well, I'm super excited about this cigar. Very excited. It is a Perdomo Maduro. I went to the cigar shop here, 9 minutes from my house. I found a new one. Picked up four Perdermos. I got a lot 23, which is from a specific field in Nicaragua where they make that one cigar, that leaf of that cigar. This is the Maduro, and I got a 10th anniversary and a 20th anniversary. You like the 30th, right? That's the one you like, or the Legacy?
Well, so the 30th was one that I talked about. I have not had the Legacy yet. 30th was the one that I talked about where I went into the cigar shop and it was $18.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, I've really been wanting to try it. It was literally the best cigar that I've ever had. The 30th was really good.
Yesterday I smoked J.C. Newman Quorum. We were talking. And I was like, man, it's a good cigar. It's a good budget cigar. And then you light this one up. And it is night and day different.
Yeah.
This is like, the Quorum would be like, if I could compare it, it would be a Taco Bell soft taco. If you go to smoke a Perdomo compared to the Quorum, it would be like going to your favorite Mexican restaurant or Tex-Mex and getting the house tacos with all the good stuff. That's the difference in the level of cigar from a Quorum to a Perdomo. And since we do this like once every 2 weeks right now, I think I'm only going to smoke Perdomos from here on out.
It's Perdomo.
Perdomo. Perdomo. It's a great cigar. I'm so glad that you
recommended it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so the 30th, smoke those. You have a month to work on those 4. The 30th, literally one of the best cigars I've ever had, and I have not had the Legacy yet. So we need to pick an episode. Episode 10 is actually a big episode because
wait, what's this?
I think this is 9. So I think I told you before, most podcasts don't even make it for 10 episodes. And we have no plans of stopping. We still have the 3 listeners that we started with.
4.
So therefore, we're up to 4 now. So like we have no reason to stop, and we enjoy it because it's the motivation to read books like this, so that hopefully they can be helpful. So I don't see any, but so maybe for the 10th episode, we celebrate with a really good cigar. I don't know that I have any Perdomos in my humidor right at this moment. I don't think I
I
do.
might do the 20th anniversary next time then, because
I'm
they said that one was, out of the 4 that I bought, that one was the most exquisite
Yep.
luxury premium cigars. So
Yep.
I
And
will make sure I
before
eat
the
food.
30th, I would say the 20th was the best.
Okay.
And it was on par with the top cigars that I'd ever smoked. And then the 30th came out, and I was like, oh, like the 20th was good, and it was literally one of the best Perdomo cigars. Then the 30th, and I've heard the legacy's even better. And I just saw on Instagram, although I wasn't scrolling Instagram because I don't scroll social media, you know, like I don't do that on a regular basis. But I was scrolling on social media, and I saw that Perdomo came out with a new line of cigars, something like the father and son cigar line. So I don't know what that's all about, but it's a limited edition run. So that means there's not even going to be that many of them, and they're also probably going to be crazy expensive. So I
That's funny
probably will
because
not buy any.
we went hiking yesterday, and I didn't take a cigar with me, but we're walking, and Soren usually does not like to walk with us. He likes to walk behind us and like use a stick and knock over trees and grass. But he
Boy
started
stuff.
walking with us. Yeah, he started walking with us for about an hour. We started talking about how babies were gonna come, or how babies were formed, and he had all these questions about birth and how babies grow in the womb. And then just randomly, he's like, Dad, when are we going to smoke a cigar together? And I was like, yes. So maybe 16 years old for the first one, maybe 18. I don't know. But he asked that question. So when you said father and son, that Perdomo came out with their cigar, maybe that's the one we will smoke together.
Maybe, who knows? You're going to have to grab it and put it in your humidor, though, because it's the limited run, meaning it's only going to be available
That's
this
true.
year.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so I'm this year, next year. So, and also I'm sure they're going to come out with, I mean, they want to make money, right? They want to put out more and more cigars.
Right.
So there will be a good cigar that Perdomo puts out. But Perdomo's definitely up there, especially compared to like everybody's heard of Padron, everybody's heard of Davidoff. Like those are the premium cigar lines.
Cohiba, Monte
And
Cristo.
yeah, Perdomo has definitely like they've joined the line for sure.
Nice.
But I do not have a cigar today because my wife just tested positive for the flu. My son was sick all last week. We don't know if he had the flu or not. We didn't test him. And I'm already feeling a little bit in my chest and my sinus cavities. So I'm going to hold off on smoking today. But I will
No worries.
live vicariously through you as you enjoy your Perdermo. Your Perdermo cigar. Perdermo.
Let's jump in right into chapter 1. Kind of gave some critique on Mel Robbins and how simple she was and how she wrote this book. And she also has a podcast, but I thought it was a little interesting with her story. So she, at 41, was $800,000 in debt. Then she created the 5-second rule to get herself out of bed because she had low motivation. At 44, and we talked about this already, but we believe that when she gave her first TED Talk, that's what set her on the map of recognition and of popularity. 46, she got her first paycheck because she wanted to be a public speaker. 49, she self-published that book, The 5-Second Rule. At 50, she started her media production company. And then at 54, which I guess is recently, she started the Mel Robbins podcast. And
2022, I
was it
think.
2022? So she's probably, around 57 years old. And what I took from just that introduction from her story was that it's never too late to start. And even if you make mistakes in your 20s and 30s and maybe early 40s, that if you do work hard enough and you do take responsibility for your life, you can still make it if you're wanting to be successful in the public eye. And many of us don't necessarily want that recognition or spotlight, but for her, she wanted that public speaking. And so I give her the credit for getting herself out of bed, using that 5 second rule to change her life, and she really has changed her life. So I respect that she had done that, coming from $800,000 in debt to probably being wealthy right now is a remarkable achievement.
Yeah, and she presents herself as extremely vulnerable. I'm sorry, she's extremely vulnerable with how she presents herself, in that she was $800,000 in debt. She says that she was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Like, maybe not an alcoholic to the extent of she would drink herself into a stupor every night and go, like fall into bed. She talks about arguing with her husband about money. She talks about her poor relationship with her daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she presents herself in a way, which I think that's one of the effectiveness of the book, where she's like, look, I if I can do it, and if these simple concepts work for me, look how messed up my life was. Like, I was $800,000 in debt. My husband had a failing restaurant. We had no love life to speak of. My daughter was so traumatized that she slept in our room every night, and we had to come back from a trip to Europe or wherever it was and end it early because my daughter was having a panic and an anxiety attack that I caused in her. Like, she opens herself up in a way that's extremely relatable.
Mm-hmm.
So she starts out introducing the let them theory. And I did write down, other people hold no real power over you unless you give it to them. And then you will never be able to control or change another person. And to me, that's what the let them theory boils down to. I know that we've talked about Stoicism up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And let them theory is basically two words. If you could take all of Stoicism and all the written works of Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and all the people, Seneca, that we've talked about, Ryan Holiday, and boil it down into two words, I would say let them. They can do them. I will do me. That's what Stoicism is. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, it's 100% Stoicism. She also talks about the detachment theory in one of the other chapters that we can get to. But in the first chapter, she says the more that you let people live their lives, the better your life gets. Because if you let people live their lives, you stop worrying about how they're living, you stop fearing what they're thinking, and that gives you freedom and gives you peace of mind. And when you have the freedom of not worrying about other people or trying to control other people, then that gives you the freedom and peace of mind to live your life. And there's probably two phrases in this book that really stuck out to me. And this is the one: the more you let other people live their lives, the better your life gets. Is probably one of the two phrases that really was transformational for me. She also goes in that first chapter, she talks about the universal law of human nature, how all human beings have a need for control. And this is where we become miserable, is because if a family member or a friend or a coworker doesn't do what we want, or they don't text us back, or they give us a cold shoulder, then we are hardwired to pursue that person to soothe our own insecurity, to make sure that they like us, because we all have this inherent need to be liked. So we try to control the narrative so that we feel comfortable and know that people like us. And
well, I think it goes back to our last episode where we talked about stillness and being comfortable being alone. And I would have to say, in the past, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, like, I've definitely gotten to the point to where if nobody wants to hang out, then that's fine. Like, I don't want to hang out. And the thing that I wrote down with this, and I think we talked about it, I don't have a problem with let them. Because in essence, and she does present this like, okay, it doesn't mean this. It doesn't mean F them.
no.
Like, it doesn't mean that at all. And that's the perspective that I take a lot of time, or I've taken a lot of time.
Same.
But she presents the second part of that, which the first part is let them think what they're going to think, let them do what they're going to do. But there is a second part to that, which is let me. And that's the part that I have struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
We have had friends, for example, that we have invested time in, we've invited them over, and it doesn't seem to matter how many times we have them over to our house. We are never invited to their house. Or it doesn't seem to matter how often we invite them out to a restaurant. We are never invited by them out to a
Mm.
restaurant, kind of a thing. So I had this question of course, I want to let them, and I need to work on let me as far as reaching out to people. If there's somebody that I care about, well, then I want to be the first to text them. And I'm not texting them so that they text back. I'm not inviting them out to a restaurant because I want them to like me. I'm inviting them out to a restaurant because I enjoy the conversation and it benefits me in a way. Their company is something that I enjoy.
Mm.
But my question was, how far, especially related to friendships, how far do you let that go? And we've talked about very intimate situations that both of us have dealt with where, sure, I understand if it's important to me that I want to talk to this person or I want to reach out to this person or have a relationship to this person, I can't expect them to reach out to me.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's important to me, I should be the one that let me reach out to them. But how far does that need to go? Because, for instance, I'm thinking of one friend in particular. We've had this couple over to our house probably 10 times in the past 2 years, 3 years. And we went through a time where we didn't have a lot of people over, maybe 6 months. And I saw this friend at a party, Christmas party, and I went up to him and said, "Hey man, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while." First thing he said to me, he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, you've been ignoring us." And I was like, what?
Let him.
He's like, "It's okay." He was like, "It's okay. Like I if you don't want to be my friend, you don't have to be my friend." And I'm like, "What?"
That's
And
because
and
adults act like 8-year-old children. Like we have
yeah,
the
so she
same
brings that
we have
up.
the same emotions as an 8-year-old child because we're all hardwired for to be liked and I think to be pursued even as adults. We want to be pursued
Yeah.
not just from the opposite sex or my wife, or if you're not dating anybody, you want to be pursued by someone. And I think when we become adults, we want our friends to pursue us because we want to feel like we matter. And I think the reason why let them ties right into stoicism is because stoicism is all about controlling your thoughts and reactions to other people. And in fact, she says a, a big phrase, our true power lies in our response. And she didn't
Mm-hmm.
quote this in the book, but we talked about this on the last episode or on Ego's Enemy, where Epictetus says what is up to us and what's not up to us. Obviously,
She did quote it in the
did she
book.
quote this
So she
one?
says, so Epictetus, and I wrote the quote down. She said, Epictetus, who is a Stoic, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters."
Okay.
So yeah, so she did bring it up.
So the more you allow other people to live their lives, the better your life will get. So in your friend's mind, you hadn't seen him for 6 months. You were like,
Right.
why haven't I not been over to his house? You're thinking about how he hasn't invited you over. And even though you invited him over so many times, the first time you saw him after not inviting him over to your house for 6 months was you were ignoring him.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that is his hardwired response because he wants to control you. I mean, according to what Mel Robbins is trying to
Right.
get through
Yeah.
this theory. I'm not saying he is trying to, or we're trying to control people, but we try to control people because it makes us feel better in the moment. But then in the end, we start replaying these scenarios in our head, and that's what makes us miserable because we try to control people in the moment, but then when we realize we can't control them, that's when we become miserable or we become fearful because we can't control people or we have the fear of what they think of us or we have the fear of their opinion. So I think just relinquishing that control and understanding that with her phrase, let them and then let me relinquishes the control we have over people and then gives us the power to know how to respond when people are self-centered and selfish, as in the situation with your friend saying, well, how come you're ignoring this?
So how far is too far to go, I think is my question, because obviously part of the responsibility of having friends is me reaching out.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you were really impressed with the 3 points of friendship, which is proximity, timing, and what was the third one? I can't remember the third
Energy.
one. Energy. So if I have somebody that I want to be friends with, I can't expect them to reach out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't expect them to do the legwork on us having a good friendship. Now, granted, over time, I'm going to expect them to respond in some way. So, for example, if we have a friend over to our house 10 times and we provide the food and, we provide the alcohol and we provide the environment and we clean the house, Megan mainly cleans the house. I help out. I do.
Yeah, you don't. You're bragging how Megan always cleans everything because she wants things done in a particular way. Dude, that's me. I'm like, don't clean this because I clean this because it has to be done a certain way. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Right. No, so we have done the work and we've had them over 10 times. We have not been invited over to their house once. We have not been invited out to eat once. We've not been invited to an event once.
Question.
So at what point do we say, that's fine? Like, obviously they are interested in having this relationship because of the response that I got whenever I saw them at the Christmas party. You've been ignoring us. So obviously they value the relationship, but they're not willing to put in the work. So how far do I let it go and how much work do I put into a relationship before I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I've had enough.
Got a question for you. What stage of life are they in compared to your stage of life? Do they have 11-year-old son? Do they have daughters? Are they older? Are they younger than you? Or are they same age?
They're about the same age. Okay. They're a little bit further ahead than us in life.
Okay.
So not exactly the same, stage in life, but very similar qualities, very similar, like, everything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason for them to not want to have a relationship. It's not like we're demanding anything. And so me and Megan, for instance, we've had these discussions because we have other friend groups that, that they just, it seems like as you age, you just don't get together as much.
Right.
Mel Robbins describes in the book that when you're younger, you do lots of group activities together, so therefore you have closer friends. When you're in high school, you're on the same soccer team, you go to the same school, you go to the same prom, you go to the same party, and you're invited and you're a part of this group. And then in college, it's even more so, where you're literally living with your friends and you're with them 24/7. And then after college, there's this great scattering. Right. Where you're all in maybe different cities all across the U.S. You try to keep your relationships together, but it gets to the point to where you have to make new friends and you have to put yourself out there. I think my struggle is I have put myself out there a lot over the years, and whether it's because somebody doesn't want to be friends or whether it's because, I don't know, I have a certain discipline that they don't have. Yeah. Like, I've experienced it all.
Right.
They end up not wanting to be friends with me. In fact, I had the thought, my first introduction to Mel Robbins was because I had a guy that I was friends with who recommended her to me. And he was like, oh, she's awesome and she's amazing. She has the simplest theories and so easy to follow. She has a podcast. And then that friend proceeded to do one of the nastiest things to me that I've ever had done. So literally, that's the connection that I had with Mel Robbins, is this person absolutely loves her. This person was just completely nasty, completely stabbed me in the back. So therefore, like, Mel Robbins is not somebody to be listened to. So I almost came into this with a negative perspective because of the friend who told me, and you even said, like, there are lots of people out there who are very shallow, or this seems to relate with people who aren't super deep. So again, come back to my question, like, how far do I take it? Do I pursue people who just aren't deep? Do I let them go? Do I reach out every now and again? Like, and I think that's the thing that I struggle with. Like, I'm okay with stillness. And she also presents in the book where if a relationship is going to happen, it will click. Like, just let it happen. But it's difficult because as adults, we're so single-minded and we're so stubborn, and we have a very specific way that we like to do things. And so often on Friday night, I would much rather be outside on the back deck, smoking a cigar, playing Clash of Clans by myself, or playing board games with my wife and my son and nobody else, just because I don't want to have to deal with the ups and downs of a relationship. So how far do you take it?
Oh, it's a loaded question.
I know.
I don't know. I mean, she talked about why friendships naturally fade, and she gave a couple of illustrations on why adult friendships don't work sometimes. Like the biggest mistakes you can make in adult friendships. One was don't let friends become the enemy in your friend's story. Earlier in the book, she talks about how friendship is one of the most, not sacred, but one of the most beautiful things in the human life is these friendships. And you talked about the great scattering already. So that was one of them. People they scatter, they move to a different location, they have changed their lives. One of the other big mistakes she said in the book was expecting the people you meet to be friends forever with you. And I think for you, of course, you are a very deep person. And so when you approach another couple or another person, it's under the assumption that you're not just shooting the breeze with that person. Like you really want to get to know this person on a more deeper and personal level. And some people, man, there's a phrase that she said, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. Let me say that again. People can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. You said it already, this book is very simple because I think a lot of people, they haven't done the work to understand themselves. They haven't healed their past. They don't know how to manage their own emotions. And so they don't know how to be the friend that someone deserves. Like you deserve somebody who's deep, like me, or you deserve somebody in
No, it's very true, and I think that's why we're so close.
Right. It's funny because she wrote also that your best friendships and your best relationships are still in the future. And I'm 40 I'm about to turn 40, and I wrote underneath that paragraph, I had no idea 5 years ago that you and I we've been close ever since 18, 19, 20. Like we've talked a lot since then, but I had no idea 5 years ago that we would become as close as what we have really in the last 2 to 3 years, and then even deeper in the last 3 to 4 months because we're doing this podcast together. So
which is the reason why we're doing it.
So going back to your question, how far do you let them do that to you? I don't have an answer. I would say until you're comfortable with the fact that that person is not willing to invest what you're willing to invest in the relationship or friendship, and you just got to let them go.
Yeah. And she presents, I think she presents the answer, which I really enjoyed, is that you already said you're not going to be friends with somebody forever. So therefore, if somebody wants to go, like, let them go. If somebody doesn't want to keep in contact with you, then let them not keep in contact with me. Whoa, what happened?
Dude, you changed your clothes.
You look so much nicer. You smell better.
Well, I took a shower and I
brush your teeth. I can smell it through the microphone.
Shirt, and I'm not outside anymore. I'm in my basement.
Wow, did you obtain powers of transportation?
I'm actually being projected by the astrophage in my spaceship right now, and I think
No. That's not till next episode.
Oh, that's next episode. Oh,
and it's astrophage. It's astrophage.
Oh, astrophage.
By the way.
Okay.
No. You got to be nerdy enough to say it right. It's astrophage.
No, astrophage. No, but
Yes, that's
here's
it.
the thing. I went to the Lego store yesterday, and they have a Project Hail Mary Lego set.
What people? So okay, so we have to stop because people,
that's right.
if
That's
people are
next week.
listening in the middle of the episode, they're like, "What in the heck just happened?" So Brent accidentally tried to wipe off a piece of ash from his computer and accidentally pressed the cancel button, and so our whole podcast went down. And it took us a little while to get it back up. And he was like, "Hey, well, let's record it now." And I was frustrated. I was not experiencing stillness. Let's just be clear. I was not experiencing stillness. And so I was like, "No."
Very well.
I played it off very well. I've been trying. I have been doing better, man. So one of the things that, so let me finish the story. So we decided, look, let's just put it off. And we were going to do it earlier in the week to record the second half of this podcast. And then we decided just to postpone it till today. So it's Sunday, a week later, and we're recording the second half of this podcast. But back to my earlier point, which is me and Megan have had these discussions. Look, I can be a jerk still sometimes. Like we all can. What? Don't act so surprised. And that's one thing that I talked to her about is, sure, it's nice to do a podcast and we want to appear to be our best selves on the podcast. And we want the world to think, which is the reason why when people ask us, why do you do podcasting? Like, how do you put yourself out there to the world? Like, we want to appear like we're this perfect specimen of a human being, but I am far from it. And I think that you said something to me that really helped me out the most, which is growth is not linear. And I'm still experiencing growth in a lot of areas of my life. I still get upset over stupid stuff. I still am selfish. I still have too many moments to myself when I should be spending time with my son and my wife. Like there are so many things wrong with me that this podcast is helping me grow. It is helping me become a better person. And I have you to thank for that. You and the 10 listeners that we have. But so, so going back to where we left off at, I forget the last question that I asked, but we were talking about friendship. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if you had anything, and I don't know if you remember the question. I watched the end of the video, but it's been a few days. Did you have an answer to that question?
Well, no, you asked the question, how long is too long, or how long do we wait for friends to take advantage of us? Or, for instance, there was the illustration of your friend, how you had invited him over to your house like 10 times.
Right.
And then you saw them at a party, and then your friend was like, man, you've been ignoring this. But how long do we go without saying enough is enough? We move on from that friendship to maybe another friend, or not hanging out with them at all. So that was the question. I don't know if you had any more thoughts about that since the last time you talked about it.
Well, I do have thoughts that are adjacent to that. So one of the things that when I was going through my notes again and then rewatching the video, she also addresses this, and I think it's kind of the same with family, because in a later chapter, she talks about family as well. And your family's going to be nitpicky sometimes. Our family is never nitpicky, ever. And our family likes everything that we do, including our mom. She loves it when we smoke cigars. No. We love you, Mom. I don't even know. I don't even think her mom.
Today, man. The sarcasm.
Is that next to the Grand Canyon? The sarcasm?
Wow. Dude, what are you smoking other than cigars right now? This is like, dude, you're just like, oh my goodness.
Dude, I came with that one out of my butt.
Wow.
But the one phrase that I really liked, there are actually 3 phrases, and I think that this kind of helped me with that concept, is first phrase, give yourself permission to live your life and give other people permission to think whatever they want about it. Mm-hmm. And then connected to that was assume people will think negative thoughts about you. Mm-hmm. And then the third one was when you operate in a way that makes you proud of yourself, it doesn't matter what other people think. I think one of the most enlightening things, and I knew it, but I don't know that it really hit home, is when she said, look, people are going to think bad things about you. In fact, your spouse is probably thinking bad things about you on a regular basis. And I love Katie. And I agree with her when she thinks, oh, Brent is such an a-hole today. He's just he's a horrible husband. Yeah, right after we visit the sarcasm.
Yeah. Oh man, that's why I'm in the basement this morning. I slept down here, so
that's why your hair's all messed up.
Yeah.
Which I haven't shaved in a few days. Can you see it?
Actually, no, I can't.
For those on the podcast, can you see it? No. All right, it's time to shave my head. But I think coming from the perspective of, look, people are going to think bad things about you no matter how much they like you. Mm-hmm. Like, there are friends that I have, and there's family. I would say of all my family, I'm closest to you, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of a natural thing. It's a natural sequence of events. It's what's happened. Mm-hmm. I'm closest to you, my brother. I feel like I'm close to Neil, our other brother, but we don't talk as much. We haven't talked as much recently. He's had some life changes. Stuff has happened, so we haven't talked as much. But either you or Neil or my mom or our brother-in-law Robbie or whoever it may be, you all are going to think bad things about me. Like, this is just the way that it is. Like, it is what it is. And I can either let that bother me or let that realization come into my brain and live the way that I want to live. As long as I know that I'm living in a morally objective way, and as she said, I'm operating in a way that makes me proud of myself. Like, I know that I'm trying to improve myself. I'm trying to grow myself. I know that I've been worse in the past. I know that I've been more of an a-hole in the past, and I'm less of an a-hole now. So therefore, I'm seeing progress. People are going to think, wow, he was an a-hole about this, that, or the other. It's okay for people to think that about me. Because if we look at ourselves, I look at this friend or that friend, I'm like, wow, that wasn't cool. Like, they were an a-hole. And then I choose whether or not to be friends with them after that point. But people are always thinking negative thoughts about us. Even those who are closest to us, I need to accept it, move on, and understand that as long as I'm trying the best that I can to be the best person that I can, well, then I don't need to worry about what other people think. And in fact, I need to let them think what they want to think. So if they're thinking bad thoughts about me, or for instance, I've done things in the past where people have disagreed, or I've worked on projects with people and then I've decided to end those projects because I just didn't like working with this person because they were too much of an a-hole. That doesn't mean that I dislike them or anything. It's just I was like, look, this is a pet project. I don't want to do this anymore because you're an a-hole. So therefore, I'm going to stop. There were people who didn't like the fact that I stopped the project because I just didn't like the person that I was working with. And if they want to think negatively about me for that, that's fine, because you know what? I'm doing the best that I know that I can do. And if they want to get angry, or if they want to think negative thoughts about me, it's totally okay. I'm operating in a way that makes me proud of myself. What do you think about that?
Well, in relationships, what's so challenging in these type of situations is because you and the other person, you both think that you are right. And you think that you are right with how you're behaving and the decisions you make. And whether it's a family member or it's a coworker, they think that they are right. So in this chapter, I don't know if you're referring to the chapter about how to love difficult people. She talked about the frame of reference, which the frame of reference is a fancy way to say, or to understand how another person sees something through their own lens. And you already mentioned family. I think family might be, when we talk about difficult people to love, you could put family in that category, not just because family is difficult, but it's because family is the people who know you the best. And they've known you, especially the family members who are older than you, like maybe a brother or sister who's older than you, an aunt and uncle, grandparents, obviously parents. They've seen you since you were born, and you've grown, and for instance, we're now approaching our 40s. You're already in your 40s, early 40s. They've seen how we evolved over the last 40 years, and they have an opinion about that. And so coming to their frame of reference and seeing the world through their eyes, and maybe seeing the world through how they view us, helps us put into perspective on why they are acting a certain way to us. So for instance, I take Soren as an example. I was with him this morning playing some Lego, and I looked at him, and just for a brief moment, I wish I saw him as a 3-year-old again, and that I could have a conversation with him as a 3-year-old. Then I thought that I probably only have, he's 10, a good 8 years of being with him every single day. And then that made me sad. Put that in the frame of reference of our parents, or put that in the frame of reference with a family member who's known you your whole life. And I think this is why they might have strong opinions on how you should live your life, why you should smoke a cigar or not. It's because that's their frame of reference. And when I read that part of the book, that was eye-opening to me, because she goes on to talk about people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And if we haven't done the work in our own life to understand ourselves, to work through some of the flaws that we have, then how can we expect other people to do that for us? We have to do that work for us ourselves, and being deep so we can meet our family members, our wife, our children in a deeper way. So that's just my echo to what you're saying about if I'm difficult, or if family members or other people are difficult, we have to kind of look through their frame of reference on why they're acting in that way.
And I think one of the issues between children and parents, which is what you just said kind of brought this up, is there will always be a part of you. And I think that's the part of accepting that our children are growing and eventually they're becoming adults and they're becoming an independent person. But there will always be a part of you that sees Soren at 3 years old. And there will always be a part of you that sees Soren as a 12-year-old. And then there will always be a part of you that sees Soren as an immature 18-year-old. And then like so on and so on. There will always be a part of our parents that sees me as the immature 20-year-old that I was. There will always be a part of our sister who is older than us. She's 4 years older than me. Happy birthday, 3 months late, Melinda. But there will always be a part of Melinda that looks at me and sees me as the immature 16-year-old that I was. And let's be very clear, I was extremely immature. I was immature at 25, like
at 35, at 45. but that's life, though. And I think when we can look back over the course of our life and see that growth, but we have to understand that that happens to other people as well. They also grow and they mature every 10 years, every 5 years, and we have to accept that. And I have to accept that for Soren as well. I know that he is going to grow and mature. He's going to not want my opinion, and I have to be okay with that.
Yeah. So, it's tough.
What do you think is that moment? So let's go back to your friend and kind of go through how, or what you're saying about when is the right time for you to. What if it's a family member that you have to cut off? What if it's like a friend that you have to cut off? Like when do you make that decision that relationship is toxic for you, and it puts you into, you've done everything you can, but it puts you into a wrong frame of mind? When would somebody make that decision to cut that person out of their life? What do you think?
So I don't think that cutting someone off is the appropriate response to any relationship issue. And granted, I realize we don't have this issue with our parents, but I realize there are some extremely overbearing parents, and the children, in fact, it's a phenomenon within the millennial Gen X generation where there's an absurd percentage of Gen X and millennials who are literally cutting off all communication with their parents and not talking to them at all. I've spoken with friends who are older than me, I'm shocked. Like I talk to these friends and they're like, oh yeah, I haven't talked to my son in 2 years. I'm like at all? No, he got angry at me for XYZ and we're just not talking anymore. I'm like at all? Like nothing? Do you even know if they're alive? Well, I see them on Facebook and they post pictures. So yeah, I know that they're alive, but they said they don't want to talk to me anymore. So I think for it to reach that, either one or the other side has to be extremely immature for it to come to that point. I think it's more choosing when we initiate contact. I think that for me, that's what it has been with friends, for example. So this person that I'm talking about that we've used the example of who has come to our house 10, 15 times and we've never been invited over there, but whatever, right? I still like this person a lot. Like they're a great person. And if we have, say, our mother is not nagging, but let's say that we have a nagging mother, and if you took away the nagging and just look at them as person, maybe they're a great person. So therefore, I look at my mother who is always nagging me all the time about whatever, and I can choose when to initiate conversation, and then I can tell her, okay, I don't want you contacting me first, or I don't want you contacting me except once a month, or I don't want you contacting me except once every other month, whatever. Like, and I think that that comes back to the book Boundaries by Henry Cloud, I think it is, where it's not like a complete cutting off, or it's not a complete, oh, I don't want to spend time with this friend anymore because you haven't reciprocated in my attempt to build friendship, but it's more setting the rules of engagement where, okay, buddy, like I feel like you're not trying in this relationship. In fact, it kind of feels hostile when I've reached out to you hundreds of times or tens of times and you never reach out to me. So therefore, it kind of feels like you're not interested in this relationship. But then when I see you, you're like, hey, you've been ignoring me. So obviously you are interested in this relationship, but it appears you don't want to do the work. So at that point, I have to decide, when am I going to engage with this person? How often? And if I have a nagging parent, then I can say, okay, I still want to reach out, or I still would like to have a relationship with my mom or with my brother or with my friend, but I'm only going to reach out when it benefits me, essentially. So when I feel is appropriate. So with my friend, if it's his birthday, and I want to reach out and say, hey, man, happy birthday, I'm not going to do it with the expectation that he has to respond. I'm telling him happy birthday because I genuinely mean happy birthday. Now, if he doesn't respond to happy birthday, or if he gets mad and he texts back and said, well, you've been ignoring us. Why did you say happy birthday? Okay, man, great. Whatever. Like he can respond however he wants, but I want to look at it from the perspective that I want to be a friend, and if I feel like me inviting you over to my house and you not inviting me over to your house is an issue, well, then if that's a problem with me, then I'm not going to invite you over to my house. If I want to talk to you and you don't want to talk to me, well, then that's fine. You can tell me, don't text me, don't talk to me, whatever, and that's fine. I'll respect that. But if it's going to benefit me in a way, and that does sound kind of selfish, I'm curious if that is selfish from your perspective, but if it's going to benefit me and I want to reach out to this person, then I should do so, but without the expectation that they will reciprocate in any way. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back down to expectations, and I think we put too high of expectation on people to like us, and not everybody is going to like us. We can be
Yeah.
friendly to everybody. I think that's really important that we're friendly, that we're approachable, that we're genuine, and when we do come across somebody that we're legitimately interested and curious in them. But I think we put the expectation because we feel that, well, I'd feel that I'm so special and I have so much to offer you that you should want to be friends with me because I'm a
Yeah.
really, really good guy. So
Yeah.
that kind of goes into, so how do we create these friendships? Like, what is a way that we can create friendships? And she mentioned a little bit about this in her book about how every life change that you go through is going to create a new friendship. And this brought me back to when we moved from Guam to Germany almost 5 years ago, and how that had completely disrupted our friend group. On Guam,
Mm-hmm.
we had many close friends. We were there for 14 years. Obviously, I was in the basketball community. I knew hundreds of people, coaches, players, families. And Katie was in the school system. Her school family was the tightest that she had ever been with her school there on Guam. But we knew that we had to disrupt our life in order to keep growing. And so we
Mm-hmm.
moved to Germany. So we went from a really, really strong family or friend group that was like family. And then when we moved to Germany, we had zero friends. And
Mm.
Germans are not the friendliest people, as in Americans, are very warm. They small talk very well, whereas Germans aren't like that. So it's still difficult to engage in friendships with a German. But I was working in a German club. Katie was working on the American base, and so we had two almost separate lives. So this whole idea of creating friendships was new for me since I was 21. So since I was 21, when I moved to Guam, I hadn't had to really work at trying to put myself out there to be friends, to create friendships. Right. So she goes into a little bit about talking about how to create these friendships. But I was wondering if you had any situations in your life or changes where you had to create new friends in a new friend group.
So I really like this part. And she did write, I wrote down, simply creating connections with other people will improve her life. And she gave the example. She moved to a new town. I think it was in Massachusetts, wherever it was. She moved to a new area. She had no friends. And like, she's this famous Mel Robbins, somebody who everybody knows. And she said she would cry herself to sleep at night because she literally had no friends. And so she had to put herself out there in order to be friends. She talks about going to the coffee shop, the same coffee shop every morning, which we can talk about that, whether or not that's a good use of your money to spend coffee at a coffee shop every morning rather than making it at home for 25 cents. But I'm not going to get on to Mel Robbins for that. I'm going to let Mel Robbins be Mel Robbins and spend her $12 on coffee if she wants to. but she said she went to this coffee house every single morning, but she never said anything to anybody. And so what she started doing is she wrote down the name of the barista, David, blonde hair with earrings, and then she looked and
she put that in her phone.
Yeah, on her phone. That's right. In her phone. Yeah. And then she looked over to the right, and there's this couple that's always there every morning or most mornings, and they have a child, and they're sitting at this table over here. She's like, I've seen them 50 times. I come in here, they're always in here, they're sitting, at one of these tables. So I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to do something in order to attempt to gain a new friend. And she sat down with them. Hi, my name is Mel. What's your name? Oh, that's interesting. And she found all these connections. And she found out, for example, that one of them was a psychotherapist. And she found out that one of them was, I think, a social worker. Like all these connections that obviously match with her and what she's doing and books that she's writing. And I think something else she says, I think I remember reading this, but she says not every person that you reach out to is going to become a best friend, but there are new relationships that will be established if we are willing to put ourselves out there. So if I meet 100 different people, then I may only become good friends with one of them. But the problem is putting myself out there for 100 people. That just feels bad. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the way that we were made, or I have no idea. But for example, I had some time in between assignments this week. And so I went to JR Cigars. It's a large cigar factory outlet store in Burlington. I had about 2 hours. So I went there, went into the cigar lounge, super nice cigar lounge, bought, a cigar, sat down and smoked it. There were two guys that were sitting over in the left corner, and there was a guy in front of me who was sitting by himself, and then two guys came in and they were sitting at the bar that was behind me on the left. I could have sat down next to the dude that was sitting by himself and say, hey man, what's up? And then I could have read his body language, and he's like, leave me the F alone. Okay. How about I'm going to go over here, right? Stranger danger, bald weirdo coming into my vicinity.
Wearing Star Trek shirt.
No, I was dressed in my professional.
I'm kidding.
That is not cool at all.
Oh, I thought the internet went out again.
Now I have to leave that awkward empty space in there so that people... Okay, anyway. I could have sat down next to him, and I could have said, hey, man, my name's Brian, whatever. And maybe he's not going to become a best friend. And maybe he's completely annoyed by the fact that he wanted to spend this next hour alone smoking his cigar.
Right.
But I sat down there next to him, and I popped this bubble, and I'm... Or maybe we become best friends. Oh, yeah, that's great. What are you into? Hey, can I get your phone number? You know what I mean? And then, a month down the road, I happen to be working or passing through Burlington again. Hey, man, I'm going to stop by the cigar shop. Are you there? and it becomes a friendship. But that would only happen if I'm willing to put myself out there. And I think that's my problem because, man, like I'm an introvert and it is super convenient for me to go out to work, interact only because I have to as a professional with the people that I have to interact with, and then come right back home and not put any work in any relationship other than with my wife and my son and my brother, right? My brothers, my extended family that I'm interested in talking to, and not have to do anything and to go out on my back deck to fire up my iPad, play Clash of Clans, and smoke a cigar. Like, I've got this new game that I've been playing called Castle Clash, and I can just sit there and, ooh, I'm shooting off rockets against my opponent, and this is great, and I don't have to do any work, and this is so much fun. And the internet has even made it easier to make semi good friends
Yes.
where we have whole Discord servers that are full of our quote unquote friends. But in reality, do we really have to work to get those friends? And I don't know how many people I've known over the years because I'm a gamer. Like I got NERD written right on the top of my head. And I have had a lot of these Discord friends. And the problem with Discord friends is sure it doesn't take much to gain a friend, like you're in the same gaming clan or you're in the same guild or whatever, and oh, did you attack the count of Duchess yesterday? I took him down in 23 hits with only my fireball. And the person's like, oh, that's so cool, I took him down with my magic spellcaster. So you can create these connections, but then whenever you're done with the game or you need to take a break from the game, it's so easy to just disconnect from these Discord servers and be like, yeah, you're not really a friend anyway. Like there's no friction there. And because there's no friction, then that leads to less quality friendships. But my point being, put myself out there, not necessarily on Discord with my gamer friends, although gamer friends can be a help in life and, they fit a niche, right? But putting myself out there for real person friends and being willing to do more than just come home, sit on the back deck, smoke a cigar, and be to myself, because that's my tendency, is being willing to put myself out there. That's kind of how I feel about it.
No, that's good. And we talked about the book How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Right.
And so I felt like she kind of tried to, maybe she had that as a resource. I didn't really check her resources in the back. But in order to create our friendships, like the reason why I don't think friendships can necessarily deepen as far as an online platform, because there's absolutely no conversation. And the person-to-person conversation is how people can grow together. But she also mentioned a couple of things about how to create these friendships. For instance, like you gave the illustration of when she was in the coffee shop. The first thing she said was to compliment people wherever you go. So people like to be complimented because they feel seen, they feel appreciated. And so to give them a compliment, like, I like your shoes. Where did you get those? Oh, those shoes look like something I'm looking for. Something as dumb as that. And then she said to be curious. And we also talked about a book last week about asking genuine, interesting questions. Because if you are asking these questions to people, they are going to start talking about themselves. And we all love, including myself, we love to talk about ourselves. So we can get people and asking them, like genuinely asking them questions about themselves, then that's a way you can create a friendship. And then she wrote also to do it for, or to expect for it to do it for a year. Or she said, give it a year. And that's how much time it might take for you to become really, really good friends with someone. Let's take, for example, that cigar smoker. Yes, you may have a good conversation if he wants to have a reciprocating conversation, but it may take a year to develop and deepen that friendship where it's actually fulfilling towards you. So there's just some ways that we can create friendships with those that maybe we are wanting to be friends with. I think it also comes back to the thing of being vulnerable and being approachable and being warm and things that I don't always do. And so these are things I think can help with being a good friend.
Yeah. So I have a specific life example where I think that in order to make friends, it's always easy to say, oh, you need to do what I like to do. Like, you're my friend, so therefore I like board games, and you have to come to my house and play my board games in order for you to be friends with me. Like, I've been talking about this friend. Maybe that's something that he doesn't like to do. And that's all we've done for the past 10 times that they've come over to our house. So, therefore, maybe that's the reason why the friendship isn't blooming. And case in point, I have a brother-in-law that I really, really like a lot, and I've known them for coming up on 10 years. He's same age as me. I think I am 2 months older than he is. Him and his wife are great. They have two kids, one which is literally the exact age as Eli. So we have the same proximity. They live, 30 minutes away. We get together for family events once every other month. We see them on, at those family events. We have similar things going on in life. Their son plays soccer. Our son plays soccer. We have similar goals in our careers. Like, he is mortgage banker, does a lot of things with finances. But for the first, I don't know, 8 years of our relationship, I just didn't feel like we were close. Like, I like this guy, and he's super great guy, but just I don't know. Like, it just, we would see each other at family events and we'd, hey man, how's it going? But like, it never really got past the surfacey stuff until I had a thought maybe a year ago. I was like, maybe I'm not doing something that he likes to do, and I don't know if he'll ever listen to me, if he cares if I tell the story or not, but he really likes to watch movies. In fact, he loves watching movies, so much so that he will go take the afternoon off, go to a movie theater by himself to sit there and watch a movie, because that's what he loves doing. So about a year ago, I was like, if he really enjoys watching movies, I don't really care. I mean, I'm okay with movies. Like, do I like movies? Sure. Is it something that I've gone years before without going to a movie theater? Like, literally years. So it's not something that I think about doing, but I know that it's something that he enjoys. So a year or so ago, I started texting him and say, "Hey, this movie is coming out. You want to go watch it?" And at first, I noticed, and maybe it's just me, but I noticed a little bit of hesitation. Like, oh, okay, you want to watch a movie with me? Like, what? This is kind of weird. That's what he didn't say that, but that's what I felt. And we watched a movie. It was a good experience. We didn't talk a lot, but we did something that he enjoyed. And then a few months later, another movie came out. I think it was, I don't remember The Running Man, or I know we watched The Running Man, but like, there's another movie that came out. Hey man, you want to watch the movie? Yeah. And then he suggested, hey, how about we grab a bite to eat beforehand? And I'm like,
right.
Oh, that's great. So we went to this pizza place, sat around, joked. It was very, kind of surfacey a little bit, like it had always been in our relationship. And then we went and watched the movie. And then all of a sudden after that, it was, hey, do you guys want to go out to dinner with us? And then, like, the whole families, we went out to dinner. And I've slowly noticed this increase in amount of time that we're spending together, because I feel like, and not, wow, great job, Brian, but I feel like I reached out to do something that he wanted to do. I wasn't expecting him to do something that I was interested in, but I sacrificed. I mean, not really sacrificed, because I enjoy it too now. And I spend time with him because I want to be friends with him, because he's such a good guy. And I really enjoy his company. He can be very deep. We differ on some topics. We're the same on some topics, but I enjoy the conversation. But because I was willing to do something different other than only what I liked, that developed the friendship. And I think that that's really important as well. And that's just a thought that I had.
Well,
I know that me and you.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
everybody, you know how you're introvert. I'm an introvert. That's the way we are. But even though we're introverts, we are looking for our tribe. We're looking for our friends. Even if we say we're okay with going to the back deck and smoking a cigar or whatever I do to pass time, we are looking for those friends. If we're looking for friends, so are other people, because we're wired that way, to want to be around friends, to share life with not just family, but also with friends. And with you going first, and asking him, "Can I go to the movie with you?" It probably, yeah, like you said, it probably he probably raised an eyebrow to you at first, but then because you did something that he liked, maybe he didn't know what you liked, and or maybe he did, but with you going first, it allowed that to happen. And I think a lot of times in adult relationships, we don't want to go first because we don't want to look like we need somebody else in our life to not make us happy, but I'm too tough for that. I don't need you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think as men, especially male relationships in that way, friendships, we don't want to be vulnerable. So that's a great example of even if even is that Megan's brother or
Megan's brother, yeah.
Okay,
Megan's brother.
Even with family members, even though let's just say we have even with family members, you're not going to see eye to eye on what you do, even though that your family, yes, family members will be closer because of blood, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be best friends even with your family. So I thought that was interesting that you were the one who kind of pursued that. You went first and asked to go to the movie with him because I think we're all looking for a friendship.
So there's two things I want to end off on. One of them that she addressed was, what if I'm the problem? So Let Them Theory does a great job at, oh, they're the problem, I'm going to let them be the problem. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, my boss is an a-hole, I'm going to let him be an a-hole. Or whatever it might be, I'm going to let them, and then, well, let me do all of that. But then she comes down to the question of, what if I'm the problem? What if I'm the person who's being overbearing? What if I'm the person who is not trying in relationships? Like, I recognize, we talked, it's been 37 minutes now, but 30 minutes ago, we talked about how I can still be a jerk and I can still have unrealistic expectations and all of these things. And people maybe who don't like me or think negative thoughts about me, or who I used to be in a relationship and am no longer for whatever reason, like, they may look at me and say, oh, well, it's because you had unreasonable expectations or you were a jerk or whatever. And maybe I look back on that and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I could have been more flexible. I could have been more willing to accept your opinion or your point of view or whatever it might be. And she says it's not about being perfect. It's about being kind to yourself and continuing to grow. Something you said on a previous episode that really impacted me in a big way is growth is not linear, to where I look back and how, wow, yeah, I could have handled that a little bit better. Or, yeah, I still think that I was right, but I could have said it in ABC way rather than EDF way. If I had said it in ABC way, well, then maybe it would have been received a little differently, and maybe we would still be friends here today. But looking at myself, understanding where I am the problem, understand where I do have an attitude issue, understand where I could reach out and apologize if it's that important to me. There's some things that I'm thinking about that I'm like, no, I'm not. I was not wrong, and granted, I didn't handle it in the best way, but I'm not freaking apologizing because you were an number one jerk. And I don't care how wrong I was. You were equally wrong, and I am not interested in that relationship. So you can go have a nice life. You know what I mean? Like, but point being, maybe that's a little too real. But like, I need to recognize where I need to improve, be kind to myself, and just continue to grow. There may be relationships in my past that will never be relationships again.
Right.
Maybe because of something I did, maybe because of something they did. We have talked about people, and you've mentioned names of people that you used to be really close to, but for whatever reason, like, they don't want to be friends any longer. Perfect example is, I used to go to an extremely strict Christian college, and the moment that I stopped being so strict, immediately had people who used to be really close friends to me, they drew a line and said, we will never contact you again, and we will never talk to you again. Like, I can look at that example and be like, hey, maybe I should have I don't know, put on a front a little bit longer so that way they can be. Maybe I should have eased them into this transition where I'm like, I'm not a subscriber to your strict religion anymore. Like, my wife is not going to wear skirts all the time. We're not going to think that it's a complete sin and you're going to hell if you go to a movie theater. Or, we don't have to go to church 12 times a week. Like that type of thing. Maybe I could have backed off it slowly. Point being, I need to continue to grow myself and learn from the mistakes that I've made in past relationships. And hopefully going forward, I can build new relationships. And case in point, I'm going to see Project Hail Mary with my brother-in-law tonight at 7 p.m.
Okay.
And there's another friend that we have a connection with because their son plays soccer and our son plays soccer and they're on the same team. And I really like this guy. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm going to watch Project Hail Mary if you would like to come. And he responded with, oh, well, who else is going? And I'm like, well, me and my brother-in-law are going. We typically go to movies, and my brother-in-law will bring people every now and again too. So it's not like something that I didn't ask. So I said, well, if you'd like to come, let me know. And like, he was kind of hesitant at first, and I noticed it, but then I saw him at a game yesterday and I asked him, he's like, oh yeah, actually I would love to go, but I have this early morning event on Monday. And so therefore, the movie time is at 7. You're probably going to get out at 10, which would put me home at 11. That's just too late. Like, but I mean, maybe next time. Like, literally, I saw the interest because I reached out and I said, hey, would you like to go to the movie with us? So it's me learning to grow, understanding that I've made mistakes with friends in the past. I've been an a-hole. Like that's a given. Brian has been an a-hole in the past. Not expecting, kind of like when we talked about, I think it was Ego's Enemy, where it's like, I'm a better person now.
Right.
I don't have so much of an ego. Like I can't announce to everybody. I just have to understand, okay, I made mistakes in my past. I've learned from it. I'm growing. If people want to come along with my growth, if they want to say, wow, Brian's a better person now, or if they don't, if they're like, wow, Brian was too much of an a-hole for me to want to ever really be close to him again. Okay, I understand that. I respect that. But I'm looking at myself and understanding that growth is not linear, but I'm getting there and I'm continuing to grow. And I understand that if I'm the problem, the only thing that I can do is I can't fix the past. I can apologize for the past and ask for forgiveness, but I can grow in the future. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the phrase "we have never arrived, we're only becoming," and you mentioned some relationships in the past. I know we didn't air this one. This is when we were talking about the book last Saturday before we did last Sunday's episode. But I remember very specifically when me and Katie were 25 years old. We were in a group of about 6 couples. So there were 6 couples, all the same age, give or take a year, and 5 of those couples decided to have a baby. And we were not ready to have a baby. And they all literally had a baby within about 3 to 6 months' time. And in my immaturity, every time they would talk about their babies or what they're going to do with their babies, me and Katie took it personally, like we were not good enough or worthy enough to be part of their friend group because we were not going to have a baby. Well, that's my immaturity. They never ever tried to force having a baby. They were excited about having a baby. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I was excited about having Soren when we knew we were having him. But in my immaturity, I didn't understand the fact of the excitement of having a baby, and so we cut those friends out. We just cut them out. We're not hanging out with you. We're going to go hang out with other people who are in the same stage of life. And I regret that because two of the other 5 couples were really, really good friends. And it was just really immature of us to do that. But I've never arrived. We're always becoming. I look back and I grow from that. And now the relationships that I have, I'm not going to make that mistake where I take things personally and I make them their enemy. But I wrote down, just to finish this book is not about other people. If you pick up Let Them Theory to understand how to deal with other people, yes, okay, it can give you some strategies on how to deal with other people. But this book is 100% about me. And that was the reality for what I got out of the book is It's about my responses. It's about me controlling my responses. And it's myself who has the power to not try to control other people, because we try to control everybody in our lives because we want to be the most important person in the room. And when we can get over ourselves, and we can get over the fact that not everybody's going to like us, not everybody's going to be our friend. Even our friends right now may not be our friends in 10 years. And in 10 years, we may meet our best friend. Then we can come to more peace. And so the let them theory, as we also said last week, it is not a profound, deep book, but it has principles in it that can give you, it can give you ideas on how to deal with people. So if I was to give it out of 5 stars, I think I would give it 2 stars because of the 2 or 3 good principles in it. It wasn't my favorite, but I would probably give it 2 out of 5 stars. What would you give it?
I don't know, because so I think that this book is really good for a certain group of people. Like I said, I mean, at this point, in the beginning of the episode, which was last week, like I think that there's a really specific, and I think a very large specific group of people. Because if you think about how many people will actually sit down and read The Obstacle's Way, Ego's the Enemy, Stillness is the Key. Like how many people, sure, he sold millions of copies, but out of those millions of copies, how many people have actually sat down and read it? Like I would say that it's a very small percent, because a lot of people will buy books to put it on their bookshelf and they'll skim through it and say that they read it. I think that this book is excellent for people who normally don't read nonfiction self-help books. And I think that's a large percentage of the population. So for those people, this is a new concept. Like they maybe have heard the word stoicism, but they're like, oh, that's either old and boring or it's this religious cult that I'm not interested in, right? This takes stoicism and it boils it down to literally the most simple concepts that you can imagine for the person who's not interested in learning deep concepts. So, and it's not that we're better than at all, because I definitely learned from this. Like there were some really good principles, but also I like a little more meat on my bones, you know? And this kind of feels like it was pork ribs with just a little sliver of meat all over. And as soon as I started to get in deep, I kept hitting bone. Where Ryan Holiday feels more like, you know, a New York strip that I can just sink my teeth into and talk about and, you know, all of that. But I think that for a lot of people, if they haven't been eating meat and they're malnourished, well, eating a little something that has some nutrients and vitamins in it is going to be really good for those people.
And I think a lot of times people too, there is not a simplistic relationship book out there. Like I would put this underneath the category of relationships, this book. And I don't know of a simpler relationship book than this one. If someone was to say, I'm having a problem with my relationships, I think I wouldn't give them Ego is the Enemy, Stillness is the Key, The Obstacle is the Way. I would give them the Let Them theory. Like I know I gave it 2 stars, but like if I knew somebody was going through a relationship problem that wasn't like a marriage issue, I would give them the Let Them theory, hands down.
So this book ends off, last 50 pages are 100% about dating and relationships. And honestly, like I didn't get much at all out of the last 50 to 75 pages, but just to add like it's there, to me, it was too simplistic. It was like, if you're on Tinder and you swipe right and he swipes right, and then you message him and he doesn't message back, we'll let them not message back. I was just kind of like, well, I mean, part of it too is like, I've been married for 8 years. Like it doesn't really apply to me, but that is the last part of the book. So I did want to mention that just in case. But next book that we're going to be reading, which I have actually already finished on Thursday, so 3 days ago, and I'm going to watch the movie of tonight, so excited, is Project Hail Mary. How far are you along in the book?
I just finished chapter 10. I read 100 pages in one day. 100 pages in one day.
That's so impressive. That's so impressive.
Because like I told you, I messaged you like 2 nights ago, because I don't have to underline anything. I don't have to take notes. I don't have to highlight. It's honestly, reading this book is like sitting down and watching a sitcom. Yeah, like, it's relaxing. Great. It's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So we did do an Audible because the movie is coming out. We wanted to read the book, so because it's my top fiction book of all time.
Right.
Like it's literally my favorite book. And you wanted to read at least one fiction book this year. And
Right.
so we figured like we kind of agreed on that as this is the fiction book. And since it correlates with the movie, we won't put it off. We'll go ahead and switch it in. And then the
Right.
book after Project Hail Mary is going to be Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Yeah.
And then we have a new lineup that we're going to go through, and I don't have the list in front of me, but we'll talk about what books we're going to read after that, and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. Same.
Did you want to end off on anything before we close up?
No. We have X up and running, so
Oh,
check
yeah,
us out.
I saw that you post.
If you get to the last part of these episodes, just go check out the social media because it's cool. Two Bros Lit social media pages are cool, so that's gonna sell it right there. Yeah,
we're the greatest. We're the best.
Oh man,
we're amazing.
I'm just gonna zip it before I get myself in trouble.
All right, until next episode.
Thanks, Brent.